Something that often bothered me about Bulls teams of the past is that during the offseason, there wasn't a strong level of camaraderie between the players, spending time with one another, getting together and working out and building that chemistry that is so vital when going into an NBA season. Not saying it wasn't there entirely. Yes, occasionally you saw a couple players getting together and working out here and there, but generally speaking, especially during the rebuild years, the guys were never really that close. And part of the reason for that, well, one was the somewhat toxic culture that the old front office regime instilled among its players, but more importantly, it was that the Bulls didn't really have a veteran leader during the rebuilding years. The team really consisted of mainly a lot of younger players who really never quite knew their place in the organization because you had guys getting traded at the drop of a hat, and there was really little transparency and communication from the top down. Well, that has completely shifted when you look at the Bulls roster now, along with the new front office and the guys actually wanting to build something together, wanting to continually get better, actually having a common goal in mind rather than just rebuilding for the future. And it starts with the push from their veteran leader in DeMar DeRozan, who has corralled the guys to come together and go through a vigorous offseason as a collective unit. DeMar even referenced it as an offseason from hell that he learned from none other than his mentor, Coby Bryant. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what some of the guys have been doing together in the offseason and why this is very different from any offseason we have seen from the Bulls in the past. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, as I'm sure most of you are aware, as was reported by Bulls beat writer Casey Johnson, that this week the majority of the Bulls roster has gotten together in LA to work out, practice, and also just bond together as a team, of course. We've talked about this before. The front office has been stressing continuity with this group, and given the crew is still relatively new together since making all of those moves last offseason and some minor ones this offseason, so even just to have the guys spend time together, build that camaraderie and chemistry is so incredibly valuable when you look at some of the top teams in the league, like the defending champion Warriors, who have gone through so much together and are in part so successful because of how in sync they are as a unit. So for the Bulls, doing this to continue to build on what they were able to create last offseason is actually going to be more vital than people think, to know and understand what they're working towards, to keep pushing even when things aren't going their way, and to trust in one another throughout the long grind of the NBA season. Now, according to Casey Johnson, the guys who are currently in LA working out together are Zach Lavine, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso, Derrick Jones Jr., Dosunmu, Dalen, Terry, Javonte Green, Coby White, and Tony Bradley. The only guys not in attendance, at least based on what was reported, were Andre Drummond, Goran Dragic, the only new additions to the Bulls, and Lonzo Ball, who is obviously still working on his recovery, although I believe he is in LA and still meeting up with the team, just not working out with them at the level that they're doing when running 5-on-5 scrimmages. And also Marko Simonovic is not in attendance. But that being said, Vucevic did share a photo of him with Dragic, so you'd have to think that now Dragic is also in LA. Whether he's actually working out with the team remains to be seen. I will say I was a little surprised that Tony Bradley was there, as it's still a bit uncertain whether the Bulls are actually going to in fact keep him on the roster or potentially waive him, but I guess it's good. Like, you want everyone working on their game, even Tony Bradley, if he's going to be in the rotation, if he remains with the team. And yeah, with Lonzo not being there, I just hope the guy gets back to his normal self. Just feels like every week we get closer to training camp, which is what, about 6 weeks from now. You just have to hope he's going to be fully ready to go, because he's missing out on this time spent together with the team, working out and practicing together. I know there are a lot of people who have doubts that he's actually going to be available by the time the first regular season game rolls around in late October. I am a bit more optimistic that by the time the season rolls around, he'll be good to go, but it's not trending in the right direction at this point in time. Anyway, so a lot of people have been asking me, do these kind of off-season get-togethers matter? And yes, they 100% matter. That is not something that every team does. You don't see all 30 teams in the association coordinating workouts and practices prior to training camp. It just doesn't happen. Sure, there are some teams that do it, but this was never something that you saw from the Bulls teams of the past do. And that even includes the D Rose years. Yes, some guys would get together and have intense workouts and practices over the summer, but not to the extent of basically having the entire team get together and doing 5-on-5 workouts. And it's valuable because of all the reasons I mentioned previously, but also the fact that these guys are dedicated and motivated to getting better, taking it seriously enough to sacrifice their time off during the summer to perfecting their craft. So yes, all of this matters. It doesn't really change the fact that the Bulls still need their team to be fully healthy to really contend in the Eastern Conference, especially with how much more competitive the East got this offseason, but it matters from a team building perspective and rallying behind each other, pushing each other, holding each other accountable in the work that they're putting in. You're setting a precedent of what they're about to embark on for a long, grueling season. You can't just be happy with starting out the season strong and falling off a cliff and getting bounced in the first round. And I give a lot of credit to DeMar DeRozan for all this. Look, he knows he only has so many good years left in his career. He's going to be 33. He's got 2 years left on his current contract. He's got a couple of chances for a shot at winning a championship, cementing his legacy, and potentially having a shot at becoming a Hall of Famer. I believe based on basketballreference.com's Hall of Fame probability odds, DeMar has a 20% chance of making the Hall of Fame, but those odds would certainly increase if he were to add a ring to his name. And so for DeMar, he's saying, hey guys, I need you all to come out to LA. I need you to be getting ready to be at the top of your game for this upcoming season. I need you to come out here and do the boot camp routine that one of the greatest players of all time went through every offseason to prepare himself and his teammates both mentally and physically. And we need to do this for each other to get ahead of the game from what other teams are doing. And I absolutely love it. It's why I've gained even more respect for DeMar in recent days, from his comments around trying to inherit the ghost of Michael Jordan to now corralling the guys well before training camp to start getting in shape for the season. I should also add actually that Billy Donovan is there in LA with the guys, which you love to see, to have your head coach there supporting the guys and what they're trying to do, but also just being there and in the loop and knowing what the guys are working on, knowing what's important to them, getting an early look and seeing which guys are putting in the work to fit in the rotation, seeing who might actually fit in a different role than they otherwise played last season. Look, the point of all of this is, and maybe this is kind of a yeah duh Captain Obvious, but stuff like this matters for a team's success. And the Bulls as a team did not have this previously. They didn't have this level of bond in years past. They didn't have their collective focus for which they have now. And this isn't a knock on Zach Lavine, as I'm sure some people will probably think I'm trying to get at here, given Zach Lavine is also one of the team's leaders and best players. But Zach is also younger. Prior to DeMar joining the team, he didn't have a level of experience needed to be that leader who knows what it takes to get through the grind of the season and to the playoffs. You shouldn't have really expected that from Zach either, when he was constantly around rebuilding rosters and not being in a situation where you're leading a winning team. That's not Zach's fault. It's the circumstances of the rosters constructed around him since he's been in the league. Anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent here, but the influence that DeMar DeRozan has had on this group in the short time that he's been with the team is noticeable. And it's led to the rest of the guys wanting it as badly as he does in doing their 4 or 5 a.m. workouts, staying in the gym for 12 hours a day, while other players around the league are off on vacation, also doing 5-on-5 scrimmages. It's just something you haven't seen from the Bulls, not at least to my memory anyway. But you guys let me know if maybe I'm forgetting certain instances where the Bulls maybe have done that in the past to prepare for the season. And hey, the guys are looking good and in shape. Not sure if you've seen some of the clips that have surfaced of their 5-on-5 scrimmages. I didn't see Zach in any of the 5-on-5 games, but maybe I just missed him. You got to see Patrick Williams running up and down the court, chasing down guys and blocking shots, converting on alley-oops. Dalen Terry looks like he's fitting in nicely with the crew. Alex Caruso is looking healthy and in shape. DeMar is looking like his normal self. We've already been able to see a lot of him this offseason playing in the Drew League. I just hope all of this translates into the regular season, and of course, I just hope the guys can stay healthy, particularly Lonzo Ball, because that will of course make all the difference. I would love to hear what your guys' impressions were of the Bulls all getting together in LA, most of them anyway. So let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.